I trusted my wife completely. Every word, every secret, every decision. But when I saw my neighbor holding the keys to my house, I thought maybe he was just helping out. When I saw him whispering with my wife late at night, I thought maybe I was overthinking. But when I heard him say things I didn't know, a plan about my own life, I realized I wasn't the stranger in this story. I was the fool. Have you ever felt like you're the last person to know the truth about your own life? My name is Marcus. I'm a simple man. 9-to-5 job. A decent house, and a wife I married 7 years ago. Her name is Vanessa. When I first met her, I thought I was the luckiest man alive. She was beautiful, intelligent, and everything I wasn't. She made room for me in her life, and I thought we were complete. We lived in a quiet neighborhood just outside London. It was a small community where everyone knew each other. People waved during morning walks, children played in the streets, and every weekend someone hosted a BBQ party. It was the kind of place where you felt safe, where you thought nothing could go wrong. Right next door to us lived Trevor. Trevor Caldwell. He was around our age, maybe a few years older. Divorced, single, but friendly. He was a good neighbor. When we first moved in, he helped us settle. Lifting heavy furniture, organizing boxes, he even threw us a welcome dinner. Vanessa loved him. She said, "Marcus, isn't it great that we have such a helpful neighbor?" I nodded. Yeah, it was great. Time passed. Trevor started coming over more. At first, just occasionally. For a cup of tea or to borrow something. Then it became more frequent. Twice a week, then 3 times, then every other day. I didn't pay much attention. I thought it was normal. That's what neighbors do. But then small things started to change. Vanessa started looking happier. She'd wake up in the morning and fix her hair, put on makeup. Even though she worked from home, I asked, "Getting ready for something special?" She smiled. "No, just want to feel good." She spent more time on her phone. Laughing, typing, quickly shutting the screen off when I entered the room. I asked, "Everything okay?" She replied, "Yeah, absolutely. Just work chats." She started mentioning Trevor's name more often. Trevor said we should plant new flowers in the garden. Trevor recommended a new restaurant. Trevor said you work too hard, Marcus. I thought it was all in my head. Maybe I was being too sensitive. Maybe this was all normal. One evening, I came home early from work. I called Vanessa, but she didn't answer. When I arrived home, she was standing outside with Trevor. They were talking, standing close, her hand on his arm. When they saw me, they immediately stepped apart. "Marcus, you're home early." Vanessa said something strange and nervous in her voice. "Yeah, thought I'd come home early. What's going on?" "Just chatting with Trevor. He was telling us about his new grill." Trevor nodded with a smile. "Yeah, mate, got a new BBQ grill. Thinking of having you both over this weekend." I tried to smile too. "Sounds great, but something inside me felt uneasy. That feeling you can't explain what's wrong, but you know something doesn't fit." The next week, I was called in for a night shift. I told Vanessa, "I have to work late tonight. Probably won't be home till 2 a.m. She said, "No problem, I'll be here. Drive safe." But I told my boss I was sick and came home at 11 p.m. instead. When I parked my car in front of the house, I saw our house lights were on. And Trevor's house was lit up too. I thought maybe they were both awake. But as I stepped toward our front door, I heard voices. From Trevor's house. And one voice was Vanessa's. My heart started racing. I quietly moved toward Trevor's house. The window was slightly open. I peeked inside. Vanessa was there, sitting with Trevor on the couch, a glass of wine in her hand, and she was laughing. That laugh she hadn't shared with me in months. I told Marcus I'm tired, she said. He doesn't suspect a thing. Trevor smiled and said, "You're really good at this." My hands started shaking. I wanted to go inside, break down the door, scream. But I couldn't. I just stood there, frozen. Then Vanessa said something that shattered my world. "Trevor, do you think he'll understand?" "When I tell him I'm leaving." Trevor replied, "Vanessa, you'll tell him when the time is right. But first we need to finish the preparations. Paperwork, accounts, everything. I know. But I feel bad too. Marcus is a good man." But what? But he never understood what I wanted. I couldn't believe my ears. She was planning to leave me. And Trevor knew everything. I stepped back into the darkness, away from my own home. I sat in my car and stayed there for the next hour, thinking, shaking, questioning myself. Did I hear something wrong? Was this all a misunderstanding? But deep in my heart, I knew. My wife had made a plan, and my neighbor had helped her make it. And me. I knew nothing. Do you know what it feels like to walk into your own home and feel like a ghost? I sat in that car for what felt like hours, but it was probably only 20 minutes. My mind was racing, replaying every word I'd heard through that window. Vanessa's laugh, Trevor's calm voice, the casual way they talked about dismantling my life like it was a weekend project. I finally drove around the block a few times and came back home at exactly 2 a.m., just like I'd said I would. When I walked through the door, Vanessa was in bed, pretending to sleep. The house was dark and quiet. Everything looked normal, but nothing felt normal anymore. I stood in the doorway of our bedroom, watching her breathe, wondering how long she'd been pretending. How many nights had she lain there, planning her exit while I slept beside her, completely unaware? I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them together on that couch. I heard her words. He doesn't suspect a thing. She was right. I hadn't suspected a thing. The next morning, Vanessa woke up cheerful. She made coffee, kissed me on the cheek, asked about my night shift. Was it exhausting, baby? She asked, her hand on my shoulder. I looked at her face, searching for any sign of guilt, any crack in the mask. But there was nothing. Just the same beautiful smile I'd fallen in love with 7 years ago. Yeah, I said quietly. Exhausting. You should rest today. I'll handle everything around the house. I nodded. I went upstairs, but didn't rest. I sat on the edge of the bed and tried to think clearly. What was I supposed to do? Confront her. Confront Trevor. Pretend I didn't know and wait to see what happened. I felt paralyzed. Like my entire life had become a stage play. I was the only one who didn't have the script. Over the next few days, I started paying attention, really paying attention. And once you start looking, you see everything. Vanessa's phone was always face down now. She changed her passcode. I noticed because one morning she left her phone on the kitchen counter, and I casually tried to unlock it with the code I'd always known. It didn't work. She changed it. When I asked her about it later, casually she said, "Oh, my phone kept glitching, so I reset some settings." Why do you need something? No, just curious. She smiled and went back to her laptop. Trevor stopped coming over as much. At first I thought maybe they were being careful. But then I realized they didn't need to meet at our house anymore. Vanessa started going out more. Meeting a friend for lunch. Quick errand to run. Just going for a walk to clear my head. Every time she left, I watched from the window. And every time, within minutes, I'd see Trevor leave his house too. They were coordinating. Right in front of me. One afternoon, I decided to follow her. I know how that sounds. But I needed to see it with my own eyes. I needed to know I wasn't losing my mind. She said she was going to the grocery store. I waited 5 minutes, then drove after her. She didn't go to the grocery store. She drove to a small cafe on the edge of town, the kind of place tucked away where no one we knew would see them. I parked across the street and watched through the cafe window. Trevor was already there, sitting at a corner table. When Vanessa walked in, his face lit up. He stood, hugged her, held her a little too long. They sat down, leaning close, their heads almost touching as they talked. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I didn't need to. The way she looked at him, the way she laughed, the way her hand reached across the table and squeezed his. I'd seen enough. I drove home before she did. I sat in the living room, staring at the wall, waiting for her to come back with her lies. She walked in an hour later, carrying a small grocery bag. "Sorry I took so long, the store was packed," she said, setting the bag on the counter. I looked at the bag. There was a loaf of bread, some milk, and a box of crackers inside. She'd stopped at the store on her way home to make her story believable. "No problem," I said. My voice sounded hollow even to me. That night, I heard her on the phone in the bathroom. The door was closed, but the walls were thin. I stood in the hallway and listened. I know, she whispered. "I just need a little more time. He's not stupid, Trevor. I have to be careful." There was a pause. "No, he doesn't know anything. I'm sure of it. But I can't just drop this on him out of nowhere. I need to set things up properly first." Another pause. "The lawyer said we need to get all the financials organized. Joint accounts, the house, everything. Once that's done, I'll tell him. I promise." My stomach turned. A lawyer. She'd already spoken to a lawyer. I stepped back from the door before she could come out. I went downstairs and poured myself a drink. I don't usually drink, but that night I needed something to stop my hands from shaking. When Vanessa came downstairs, she saw the glass in my hand. "Marcus? Are you okay?" I looked at her. Really looked at her. And for the first time, I didn't see my wife. I saw a stranger. "I'm fine," I said. "Just a long day." She sat next to me on the couch, put her hand on my knee. "You've seemed distant lately. Is something bothering you?" The audacity of that question almost made me laugh. "Something bothering me?" "Yes, Vanessa. My wife is planning to destroy my life, and my neighbor is helping her do it. That's what's bothering me." But I didn't say any of that. Instead, I said, "Just work stress. I'll be fine." She kissed my forehead. "You work too hard. You should take some time off. Maybe we could go away for a weekend? Just the two of us. A weekend away. With the woman who was counting down the days until she could leave me." The irony was almost poetic. "Maybe," I said. She smiled and went to bed. I stayed on that couch until sunrise, the glass empty in my hand, my mind running through every possible scenario of what came next. The following week, I did something I'm not proud of. I went through her things. Her laptop, her drawers, her car. I was looking for proof, for something concrete that would tell me exactly what she was planning. I found it in her laptop. She'd left it open one afternoon when she went to shower. There was an email thread with someone named Catherine Brennan, a divorce attorney. The subject line read, Caldwell Vanessa case. Asset division. I felt sick. I opened the email. Dear Mrs. Caldwell, it began. My last name. She was already using a different version of herself in these emails, preparing for a life without me. The email detailed everything. How to separate joint bank accounts. How to handle the house we'd bought together. How to file for divorce in a way that would be least contentious and most favorable to her position. There was an attachment. A document titled Proposed Settlement. I downloaded it. I read every word. She wanted the house. She wanted half of my pension. She wanted alimony. And the reason listed for the divorce? Irreconcilable differences and emotional neglect. Emotional neglect. I'd worked every day to provide for us. I'd loved her, trusted her, built a life with her. And I was being accused of emotional neglect. I heard the shower turn off upstairs. I quickly closed the laptop and walked away, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might explode. That evening, Trevor knocked on our door. He had a bottle of wine in his hand. Hey, thought I'd bring this over. A thank you for being such great neighbors. Vanessa's face lit up. Trevor, how sweet of you. Come in, come in. I watched them, the way they looked at each other when they thought I wasn't paying attention. The small smiles, the inside jokes. They were so comfortable together, so natural. We sat in the living room, the three of us, drinking wine and making small talk. Trevor asked about my job. Vanessa asked about his new project at work. I sat there, nodding, smiling, playing the role of the oblivious husband. At one point, Vanessa excused herself to get more glasses from the kitchen. Trevor leaned toward me, lowering his voice. Marcus, can I ask you something? Sure. Have you noticed Vanessa seems happier lately? I stared at him. The nerve, the absolute nerve of this man. What do you mean? I asked, keeping my voice steady. I don't know, mate. She just seems lighter. Like something good is happening in her life. I hope everything's all right between you two. He was testing me, seeing if I knew, seeing how much I'd let slide. I smiled. Everything's perfect, Trevor. Couldn't be better. He smiled back. Good. That's really good to hear. Vanessa came back with the glasses and we continued our charade. But inside, I was screaming. I wanted to grab him by the collar and throw him out of my house. I wanted to demand the truth from Vanessa right there and then. But I didn't, because I realized something in that moment. If I confronted them now, without a plan, I'd be the one left with nothing. They'd already prepared. They'd already lined everything up. I was steps behind. So I decided to do something I'd never done before. I decided to play their game. I would let them think I didn't know. I would smile and nod and pretend everything was fine. And while they prepared their exit, I would prepare mine. Because my neighbor knew what my wife was planning before I did. But now I knew too. And I wasn't going to let them destroy me without a fight. Have you ever had to pretend your heart isn't breaking while sitting across from the person who's breaking it? The next morning, I made a decision. I called in sick to work, something I rarely did. Vanessa seemed surprised when I told her I was staying home. Are you feeling all right? She asked, concern in her voice. Fake concern, I now realized. Everything about her felt fake now. Just need a mental health day, I said. Thought I'd relax, maybe catch up on some things around the house. That's good, she said, kissing my cheek. You deserve a break. After she went upstairs to start her work calls, I got to work on mine. I called a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, but one of the best divorce attorneys in London. His name was Richard Morrison, and his reputation was that he didn't lose. Mr. Morrison's office. The receptionist answered. I need to schedule a consultation. It's urgent. May I ask what this is regarding? Divorce. And I need to protect my assets. There was a pause. Mr. Morrison has an opening tomorrow at 10 a.m. Can you make that? I'll be there. I hung up and sat back, feeling something I hadn't felt in weeks. Control. Even just a little bit of it. That afternoon, while Vanessa was on a video call in her office, I went back to her laptop. I knew her new password now because I'd watched her type it in that morning when she thought I was in the bathroom. I copied every email, every document, every conversation with Catherine Brennan. I forwarded them all to my personal email, then deleted the sent messages so she wouldn't know. I found something else too. Text messages she'd backed up to her cloud. Messages between her and Trevor going back 6 months. 6 months. This had been going on for half a year. I read through them, each one like a knife in my chest. Trevor can't stop thinking about yesterday. Vanessa, me neither. I wish we didn't have to hide this. Trevor, soon. Once everything's in place, we won't have to. Vanessa, I know. I just feel guilty sometimes. Marcus doesn't deserve this. Trevor, you deserve to be happy. V. That's what matters. Vanessa, you're right. Thank you for being patient with me. I scrolled further back. There were pictures. Nothing explicit, but intimate enough. Trevor and Vanessa at restaurants I'd never been to. Trevor and Vanessa on a hiking trail, his arm around her waist. Trevor and Vanessa in his living room, glasses of wine in hand, her head on his shoulder. They'd been building a whole relationship. A whole life. While I worked late nights and trusted them both, I saved everything. Every message, every photo, every piece of evidence. The next day, I met with Richard Morrison. His office was impressive, all dark wood and leather chairs. He was a man in his 50s, sharp eyes, expensive suit. He looked at people like you could see right through them. I laid it all out for him. The overheard conversation, the emails, the text messages, the photos, everything. He listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, he sat back in his chair and folded his hands. "Mr. Caldwell," he said. "Wait, no. That wasn't my name. I'm sorry, Marcus. What's your last name?" "Holloway," I said. "Marcus Holloway. Mr. Holloway, you've done excellent work here. Most clients come to me emotional and empty-handed. You've come prepared. That puts you in a very strong position. What do I do now? First, we secure your assets. I'll file an emergency motion to freeze your joint accounts. She won't be able to drain them before the divorce proceedings begin. Second, we document everything. You'll keep doing what you're doing, gathering evidence, but you won't confront her yet. Not until we're ready. How long will that take? 2 weeks, maybe 3. We need to build an airtight case. When we strike hard and fast. She won't know what hit her." I nodded. 2 weeks. I could last 2 weeks. "And the neighbor?" I asked. "Trevor?" Richard raised an eyebrow. "What about him? Can we use the affair against her?" "In the UK, adultery can be grounds for divorce, but it doesn't typically affect asset division unless you can prove financial impropriety. However, it does make for a very compelling narrative in court. Judges are still human. They don't like cheaters." "Good. One more thing, Mr. Holloway. From this moment on, you need to be an actor. You go home, you smile, you play the loving husband. Do not give her any reason to suspect you know. If she gets spooked, she might accelerate her plans, and we'll lose our advantage." I left his office feeling stronger than I had in weeks. I had a plan now. I wasn't just a victim anymore. Over the next week, I played my part perfectly. I complimented Vanessa cooking, asked about her day. I suggested we watch a movie together. I even brought her flowers one evening. She seemed surprised. "Marcus, what's all this for? Do I need a reason to appreciate my wife?" I said, handing her the bouquet. She smiled, but I saw something flicker in her eyes. Confusion? Guilt? I couldn't tell anymore. That weekend, Trevor invited us over for the BBQ he'd been talking about. Vanessa seemed excited. "We should go," she said. "It'll be fun." "Sure," I said. "Why not?" Saturday afternoon, we walked next door to Trevor's house. There were a few other neighbors there, people from the street I barely knew. Trevor was at the grill, flipping burgers, beer in hand. "Marcus." "Vanessa, glad you could make it," he called out, waving us over. We made small talk. Trevor handed me a beer, and I took it, smiling like we were old friends, like he hadn't been sleeping with my wife, like he hadn't been helping her destroy my life. At one point, Vanessa and Trevor ended up near the grill together while I was talking to another neighbor. I watched them from the corner of my eye. They were being careful, keeping their distance, but every so often their hands would brush. Small touches that no one else would notice. But I noticed everything now. Later, when Vanessa went inside to use the bathroom, Trevor approached me. He had that same friendly smile he always wore. "How's work been treating you, mate?" he asked. "Busy, but good. Can't complain, that's good. You know, I've been meaning to tell you, you're a lucky man. Vanessa's amazing. You two seem really happy together." I looked him straight in the eyes. "We are." "Very happy." He nodded slowly, as if trying to read me. "Good. That's all that matters, isn't it? Being happy." "Yeah," I said. "That's all that matters." There was a moment of silence between us, and in that silence, I saw it. A flicker of doubt in his expression. He wasn't sure if I knew. He was testing me, and I was passing the test. "Well," he said finally, "if you ever need anything, I'm right next door." "That's what neighbors are for, right?" "Right," I said. "Thanks, Trevor." When Vanessa came back out, we stayed for another hour, then excused ourselves. As we walked back to our house, she took my hand. "That was nice," she said. "I'm glad we went." Me too. That night, lying in bed next to her, I stared at the ceiling. She fell asleep quickly, her breathing steady and calm. Meanwhile, my mind was racing. I thought about the emails Richard Morrison had helped me draft, the account freezes that would go into effect, the court date that was being scheduled, the moment when Vanessa would realize that I knew everything. I thought about Trevor next door, probably lying in his own bed, thinking he'd gotten away with it, thinking he'd won. But he hadn't won. Neither of them had. The following Tuesday, I got a call from Richard. "Everything's in place," he said. "The accounts are frozen as of this morning. The divorce papers are ready to be served. Are you ready to move forward?" "Yes," I said without hesitation. "Good. Tomorrow morning, a process server will arrive at your home at 8 a.m. Make sure you're there, but don't interfere. Let it happen naturally." "What about Trevor? What about him?" "I want him to know. I want him to see what he's done." Richard paused. "That's not legally necessary, but I understand the sentiment. We can arrange for the papers to reference him by name as a co-respondent. It'll be part of the public record." "Do it." That evening, I did something I hadn't done in months. I cooked dinner for Vanessa. A full meal, her favorite pasta dish, with wine and candles.
She was shocked. Marcus, what's all this? I just wanted to do something special, I said. For us. We ate together, and for a moment I almost felt sad. Not for what I was about to lose, but for what I'd already lost months ago, without even knowing it. The woman sitting across from me wasn't my wife anymore. She was someone else, someone I didn't recognize. After dinner, we sat on the couch. She leaned against me, and I put my arm around her, feeling the weight of everything unsaid between us. Marcus, she said softly, I need to tell you something. My heart stopped. Was she finally going to do it? Was she going to tell me she was leaving? What is it? I asked. She hesitated, then shook her head. Never mind. It's nothing. I'll tell you another time. You sure? Yeah, I'm sure. She kissed me goodnight and went upstairs. I stayed on the couch watching the clock tick toward tomorrow. Toward the moment everything would change. At 7:45 a.m. I was dressed and ready. Vanessa was still in her bathrobe making coffee in the kitchen. I heard the doorbell ring at exactly 8 a.m. I'll get it, I said. I opened the door. A woman in professional attire stood there with a clipboard and an envelope. Marcus Holloway? She asked. That's me. And is Vanessa Holloway present? She's in the kitchen. Can you get her, please? I turned and called out. Vanessa, someone's at the door for you. She walked into the hallway, confused. For me? Who is it? The woman stepped forward. Vanessa Holloway? You've been served. She handed Vanessa the envelope, then turned and walked back to her car. Vanessa stared at the envelope.
Then at me. Marcus, what is this? Open it, I said calmly. Her hand shook as she tore it open. I watched her eyes scan the first page. Petition for divorce. Her face went pale. Marcus, what? I don't understand. You don't understand, I said, my voice still calm. Let me help you. I know about Trevor. I know about the lawyer. I know about the plan. I know everything, Vanessa. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. I heard you, I continued. That night when I came home early, I heard you in Trevor's house talking about leaving me, planning it all out, and I've been watching ever since. Tears filled her eyes. Marcus, please let me explain. Explain what? That you've been lying to me for 6 months. That you and Trevor have been having an affair behind my back. That you hired a lawyer to take everything from me? What exactly do you want to explain? She stepped toward me, but I stepped back. Don't, I said. Just don't. At that moment, there was a knock on the open door. We both turned. Trevor stood there, concern on his face. He must have seen the process server. Is everything all right? He asked. I looked at him, and I smiled. A cold, hard smile. Everything's perfect, Trevor. In fact, your name is in those papers too. As the correspondent. Congratulations. You're officially part of this now. His face went white. Vanessa looked between us, tears streaming down her face. Marcus, please, she whispered. Don't do this. I'm not doing anything, Vanessa. We already did it. I'm just making sure everyone knows the truth. I walked past both of them, grabbed my keys from the table, and headed to my car. As I drove away, I looked in the rearview mirror. Vanessa was standing in the doorway, the papers clutched in her hand, Trevor beside her, both of them frozen. My neighbor knew what my wife was planning before I did. But now they both knew something they hadn't planned for. I wasn't going to be their fool anymore. Part 4, Epilogu. Do you know what silence sounds like when everything you built for 7 years collapses in a single morning? I drove to a hotel that morning. Not far, just across town. A small, quiet place where I could think. Where I didn't have to see Vanessa's face or Trevor's shocked expression. Where I could finally breathe. I sat on the edge of the hotel bed and stared at my phone. 16 missed calls from Vanessa. 12 text messages. I read them, one by one. Vanessa, Marcus, please come home. We need to talk. Vanessa, I'm so sorry. I never wanted it to happen this way. Vanessa, please just let me explain. You deserve that much. Vanessa. Marcus, please. I'm begging you. I turned off my phone and lay back on the bed. For the first time in weeks, I felt something strange. Relief. The secret was out. The pretending was over. I didn't have to smile anymore. I didn't have to act like everything was fine. The next few days were a blur. Richard Morrison handled everything with ruthless efficiency. The frozen accounts meant Vanessa couldn't access our money. The evidence I'd gathered meant she had no leverage. Her lawyer, Catherine Brennan, tried to negotiate, but Richard shut down every attempt. Your client engaged in a calculated affair while planning to financially devastate my client. Richard said during one phone conference I listened in on, there will be no favorable settlement. We're going to court, and we're going to win. I received a call from my sister, Charlotte, 3 days after the papers were served. She'd heard through family channels. Marcus, what the hell happened? She asked, her voice a mix of shock and concern. I told her everything. The whole story, from beginning to end. When I finished, there was silence on the line. I never liked her, Charlotte finally said. I never said anything because you seemed happy, but I always felt something was off about Vanessa. You should have told me. Would you have listened? She was right. I wouldn't have. I was too in love, too trusting, too blind. What are you going to do now? She asked. Move forward. What else can I do? 2 weeks later, I went back to the house. Not to stay, but to pack my things. Richard had advised me to move out temporarily while the divorce proceedings continued. It'll look better in court, he said. You're the one who left a hostile environment. When I pulled up to the house, I saw Vanessa's car in the driveway. My stomach tightened, but I prepared myself for this. I walked in with empty boxes and started in the bedroom. She appeared in the doorway 10 minutes later. She looked different. Thinner. Tired. Her eyes were red, like she'd been crying for days. Marcus, she said softly. I didn't look up. I kept packing my clothes into the box. Can we please talk? She asked. There's nothing to talk about, Vanessa. Yes, there is. Please. Just 5 minutes. I stopped and turned to face her. Fine. 5 minutes. She took a shaky breath. I never meant for it to go this far. It started as just friendship. Trevor was going through his divorce. I was feeling lonely because you were always working. And we just started talking. It was innocent at first. Innocent. I repeated flatly. Yes. But then it became more. And I know that's my fault. I should have stopped it. I should have talked to you instead. You should have done a lot of things, Vanessa. But you didn't. You chose to lie. You chose to plant a whole new life behind my back. You chose to make me look like a fool in my own home. I never wanted to hurt you. I laughed bitterly. You hired a divorce lawyer. You planned to take the house, my pension, everything. You called it emotional neglect in your filing. But you never wanted to hurt me. Tears ran down her face. I was confused. I was angry. I felt like you didn't see me anymore. Like I was just there, like furniture. So instead of talking to me, you went to Trevor. Yes. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I zipped up the box and picked it up. Your apology doesn't change anything. The divorce is happening. You made your choice, and now you have to live with it. What about forgiveness? She asked, her voice breaking. What about the 7 years we had together? Don't they mean anything? I stopped at the door and looked back at her. They did mean something. They meant everything to me. But you threw them away the moment you started planning your exit. You don't get to ask for forgiveness now just because things didn't go the way you wanted. I walked past her, carried the box to my car, and came back for more. She stood in the hallway watching me crying, but I didn't stop. I packed everything that mattered. My clothes, my books, my personal documents, the watch my father gave me, the photos of my family. I left behind everything that was ours. The wedding photos on the wall, the furniture we picked out together, the kitchen table where we used to eat breakfast every morning. All of it stayed because none of it felt like mine anymore. When I was done, I walked through the house one last time, and now Vanessa was sitting on the couch, her head in her hands. Goodbye, Vanessa, I said. She looked up. Marcus, please don't leave like this. Like what? Like someone who was betrayed. Like someone who's tired of being lied to. This is exactly how I should leave. I walked out and didn't look back. The divorce took 4 months. 4 long months of court dates, mediations, and legal back and forth. Vanessa tried to fight for the house, but Richard demolished her case. The text messages, the emails, the photos, it was all presented to the judge. In the end, I kept most of my assets. The house was sold, and we split the proceeds, but I got the larger share. She didn't get alimony. She didn't get my pension. The judge didn't look kindly on someone who'd had an affair while planning financial deception. Trevor's name came up several times during the proceedings. He wasn't legally liable for anything, but his reputation in the neighborhood was destroyed. People talked. People knew. Within 6 months, he'd moved out of the neighborhood entirely. Vanessa moved in with her sister across town. I heard through mutual friends that she and Trevor didn't last. Whatever they thought, they had fell apart once the excitement of sneaking around was gone. Turned out their relationship was built on lies and adrenaline, not love. I moved into a smaller flat closer to the city. It was quiet, peaceful. Mine. The first few months were hard. I'd wake up in the middle of the night reaching for someone who wasn't there. I'd cook dinner and realize I'd made too much food out of habit. I'd see couples walking hand in hand and feel a sharp pain in my chest. But slowly, things got better. I started going to the gym. I reconnected with old friends I'd neglected during my marriage. I took up photography, something I'd always wanted to try but never had time for. I traveled to Scotland for a weekend just because I could. And most importantly, I learned to trust myself again, to listen to my instincts. To not ignore the small warning signs that something's wrong. One evening, about 8 months after the divorce was finalized, I was sitting in a cafe editing photos on my laptop when someone approached my table. Excuse me, is this seat taken? I looked up. It was a woman, mid-30s, warm smile, kind eyes. No, go ahead, I said. She sat down with her coffee and pulled out a book. We didn't talk at first, but after a few minutes, she glanced at my laptop screen. Those are beautiful, she said, nodding at the landscape photos I was editing. Thank you. Just a hobby. Well, you're very talented. We started talking. Her name was Isabel. She was a teacher. Loved hiking. Had a dog named Copper. She was divorced too. 3 years ago. She understood what it felt like to rebuild. We exchanged numbers. We met for coffee a week later. Then dinner. Then a walk in the park. I wasn't ready to fall in love again. Not yet. But I was ready to be open to the possibility. And that felt like progress. A year after the divorce, I ran into Vanessa at a grocery store. It was awkward. We both froze when we saw each other in the cereal aisle. Marcus, she said quietly. Vanessa. How have you been? Good. You. I'm managing. There was a long pause. She looked like she wanted to say more, but I didn't give her the chance. Take care of yourself, I said and walked away. I didn't feel anger anymore. I didn't feel sadness. I just felt nothing. And that was okay. She was part of my past now, a chapter that had closed. Looking back, I realized my neighbor knowing what my wife was planning before I did was the worst and best thing that could have happened to me. Worst because it shattered my world. Best because it forced me to see the truth. It forced me to stop being passive in my own life. I learned that trust is precious, but blind trust is dangerous. I learned that love shouldn't require you to ignore your instincts. I learned that sometimes the people closest to you are the ones capable of hurting you the most. But I also learned that I'm stronger than I thought. That I can survive betrayal. That I can rebuild. That I deserve better. And that's exactly what I gave myself. Better. Today I'm happy. Genuinely happy. I have my own place, my own life, my own peace. I'm dating Isabel. And she's nothing like Vanessa. She's honest. She's transparent. She communicates. I still think about what happened sometimes. Late at night when the memories creep in. But they don't control me anymore. They're just reminders of who I used to be and how far I've come. My neighbor knew what my wife was planning before I did. But now I know something too. I know my worth. I know my strength. And I know I'll never let anyone make me feel invisible again. If this story hit hard, like, share and subscribe for more real confessions and unforgettable moments.